Okay, we are live streaming again. We are at the point in the meeting where we're going to do Recreation and Community Development Committee, and I'm going to turn it over to Chair Wilmer.
Thank you, Mayor Love, and good to see you, Stephanie. You're here. Thank you. Item 8.11 is the BIA budget and their proposed schedule. It's an information item. The budget is laid out for you. It's not a lot different. And again, they have the schedule, which is mostly about the watering and hanging of plants and the lighting. I don't know, are there any questions on it, or Mayor Love?
Just wanted to check with Sue that we don't actually have to accept this, like have a recommendation where we accept or approve it, because we are collecting taxes towards it. Is it purely an information item?
It is an information item, yes. We usually accepted it because we do a levy for the funds that they use.
So I'm just thinking that there should be a motion that we accept it.
Yes.
To back that up.
Yep, we can do that if I get a mover and a seconder.
Councillor Poplinski moves and I'll second. So any discussion on it? All in favor? Okay, carried. All right, and then item number 2, again, is a 8.12. Again, is the report. This is from the station keepers. And again, it's a letter from the president and really schedule of events, which is basically all sort of gone online and podcasts and that sort of thing. But I think like everyone else, they're hoping that some point they can return to some normalcy. And anyway, that's what it is. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments. Or Stephanie, if you have anything to say. I think it's quite self-explanatory.
Chair?
No.
Mayor Love?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that I think they've been doing a great job of keeping things going and keeping the public's interest in spite of the fact that they haven't really been able to be open and have events in the building. They certainly, if you're a member, you get a fairly substantial and interesting email at least once a week with all kinds of contests and information about history throughout our community. So, you know, there is a lot going on and people should consider signing up to be members because there's some really interesting information and fascinating details that they're sharing about our community through their online newsletter presence. And so they do have a lot going on. It's just not necessarily in the building. I really appreciate what they've been doing.
I agree. I always enjoy, I don't know when Barry sleeps, but I enjoy his spare board that arrives at 1 a.m. in the morning. And even though I don't know many of the people in the older pictures, I can sometimes figure out who they are, knowing these people now. So it's always very interesting to look at. Councillor Poplinski. Councillor Poplinski, you're muted.
How's that?
That's perfect.
Okay, now I just want to also say what a great job. I see they got 29 events planned, and these are volunteers. So how wonderful. We got a great situation there, and we want to encourage them and help them out. And just, it's wonderful for the whole community because they're trying to engage everybody and all ages, and especially when you see volunteers doing it. So maybe they could be a good example for some of the other things we're trying to do in our township.
I agree. They're certainly a wonderful group and very dedicated to what they do. All right, thank you. So item 8.13 is the PJY Community Center rentals and renovations. And Stephanie, you have a report on that. Perhaps you'd like to go through it a little bit. It's short. Basically just moving things around a bit to accommodate renovations.
Sure. I just wanted council to be aware. We do have a wedding planned for 2022, And I have had some inquiries for some, well, in the beginning, there were some stag and does, but now due to the lockdown, that may have changed as well. But so the interest is in 2021 right now for some bookings. And then again in 2022, I do have a wedding booked. So I wanted council to be aware and that I needed to move forward with the plan for either canceling this reservation in 2022 or what it is my next step is. So I just had recommended that we open the bookings for 2021 under health unit and guidelines. And then we could plan for the renovation in 2022. And that council directs me to refund the deposit paid for the 2022 booking that I have.
So Stephanie, we just have the one booking for 2022?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or comments? I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens for the rest of 2021, but I think at least is worth being prepared if we can rent it under health guidelines, that we should at least have that opportunity. Any comments, any thoughts? Mayor Love?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Chair, that we need to open it up for rentals in case we could make a little bit of revenue this summer.
Yeah.
We know we're not going to be able to proceed with the renovations this year. So, you know, who knows how things are going to go, but if there is some revenue that could be made and some people whose events could be accommodated through following public health guidelines, then I think we should do that. It's, you know, it's unfortunate that we are in a position where we do have to shift the renovation, but we recognize the needs of health in our community. And I would anticipate with the way vaccines are starting to roll into the province that we could see that shift from the Legion to the arena happen potentially fairly soon in our community, because there is going to be enough need and demand that they'll require more space for vaccinations. And it's unfortunate, though, that we would probably have to put off or at least return the deposit for the request for 2022. If there was any way to shift the date from June, I know people want to get married in June, but to prior to the, you know, a few months earlier, so we could slip it in before the renovations, that would be great. Or
It's a
after.
ice slab rental.
Yeah, it would have to be before the renovations or after.
Right.
So if they have any flexibility, I think, you know, it's worth asking to see, but otherwise we know that it's probably not going to be available. So we'll have to give them their money back because they're going to have to find a different space. And I want them to have as much heads up as possible.
Stephanie, is that a slab rental?
It is.
It is. So it couldn't happen anyway, before or after. No. All right. And we have not, I think you answered my question, Mayor Love, but we have not been given a formal request yet for anything from Renfrew County Health regarding moving to the arena yet for Mayor Love?
No, we haven't. Well, we've had the formal request to have it available.
Yeah.
But Sue and I have both learned through our various contacts, through hers with the province and mine through Roma, that there'll actually need to be a memorandum of understanding with the health unit. And that through that process of having a memorandum of understanding, some of like our costs related to providing the vaccination center in terms of cleaning and additional issues around that will all be covered through that process. So we do know what to look forward to and what to expect now, and how those costs would be recouped by our municipality. And so that we're not in a sense then footing the bill for the entire area. We would have an agreement with the health unit. So
Okay.
that's good to know.
That's good to know. Yeah. Sue.
I did receive a call this morning just before the meeting, just someone asking for clarification as for the vaccination center in the event that the vaccines come in bigger doses, so that they would want to use the arena for, you know, it's a bigger space to be able to accommodate. So we did get I did give them that clarification they were looking for, and referred them to the two individuals that had done the site visit of the location as well.
Thank you. Okay. So are there any other, Councillor Poponski?
Yes, thanks, Chair Wilmer. Just want to comment about the current situation at the Legion for the vaccination. I was fortunate enough to be one of the ones that were dealt with last week, and I want to compliment the doctors, the nurses, the volunteers, extremely well organized. So anybody that has any trepidations about going and doing that, it's painless, and it's you feel good when you get it done emotionally. And I think it's just to see everybody there and to see how well it is organized, and I'm sure that will continue. Anyway, great job.
That's terrific. I'm glad you're vaccinated. I'm looking forward to my chance. Sue.
I just want to clarify. So for the bookings, if we're opening it up for 2021, the commitment was that the ice surface would be available and they wouldn't have to tear down and set back up once they set up for the vaccination center. So that might be a little tricky to do rentals as well. So I'm not sure if it's solely for upstairs that we're looking at opening it up, but we'd have to be mindful of that too.
Mayor Love.
Yeah, I was thinking, sorry, Sue, honestly, my mind was actually just thinking of upstairs and the potential to rent the upstairs. So yeah, we don't want to have any conflicts because nobody knows how this is going to roll out, what the needs are going to be, and certainly the health needs of our community. The sooner they're met, the more likely it is that we will then be able to get back to some semblance of a normal where our rentals could occur. And so I was actually in my mind only thinking of the upstairs. I apologize, I didn't make that clear.
And that's actually why I asked in the first place whether we knew of whether we were going to be moving it, they were going to be moving it or not, because I'm almost wondering if we should amend it then to direct staff to open bookings for 2021 at PJY Center Hall rather than the whole facility. Not sure.
Well, I think as long as the understanding is there, I think the resolution is fine as it was written.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? So we do have a resolution. I'll ask Sue to read it, please.
That council directs staff to open bookings for 2021 at the PJYCC under COVID restrictions and RCDHU guidance, which is the Renfrew County District Health Unit. And that council directs staff to plan for renovation at the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center in spring of 2022 and close the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center for event rentals from April to September 2022. And that council directs staff to refund the deposit paid for 2022 bookings.
Okay, could I have a mover, please? Mayor Love, seconded by Councillor Schulis. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. All right, item 8.14 is recreation update, and Stephanie's presented us with a report. And Stephanie, I'll ask you to go through it, please.
Sure. So I put everything together into one report. I kind of feel like small reports. This is all a little bit together in one. So I wanted to include all the little updates. So Snowdown was an event that ran from January to March, and the prizes winners have been selected. They've all been contacted, and we are waiting to hand out their prizes. So this was a combined effort. So I included the statistics that we shared on the radio broadcast last week as the announcement was made. And I just wanted council to be aware that we hope to do more events like this in the future because the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. Something to look forward to in COVID times that was safe and family oriented. Combermere Hall access, just for council's awareness, I wanted to make sure you guys all knew we did change the locks at the Combermere Hall. The groups using it have been told. The keys are here and they will be made available. There used to be key boxes at the front door. If they're not removed as of right now, they will be shortly. So the access to the hall will be provided to the user groups who have memorandums of understanding with us in the facility. And then staff will be there for other rentals. The next item is spring break kits. So staff has put together a spring break kit, which includes some family games and glow sticks, party glasses, bucket list, and a journal, coloring activity. We wanted to make it available during spring break. Well, it was going to be March break, but it's now spring break. And so I wanted to have that available. I'm taking signups right now. I've got 100 kits available, and I've got about 15 or so emails over the weekend. So I'm hoping that we get more by the end of the week. The next small event is just Chalk the Walk. And I wanted to do something that gets everybody outside enjoying this beautiful weather. And while you're out there enjoying some of the driveways, sidewalks that your neighbors can decorate, brighten your neighbor's day. So I can email out the posters. They've already been shared on our social media pages. And I just wanted council to be aware of that. In February, I applied for, or sorry, March, I guess. We applied for the Canadian Tire Jumpstart Foundation grant, and we were successful. So Jumpstart is paying for 9 disc golf units, which will be set up throughout our township. With those units comes the disc golf set, and we'll need to learn how to play disc golf and run some programming for some of our local youth. Again, under COVID restrictions and guidelines, we'll see where that goes. At the very least, they'll be put out and the discs made available at our local parks in the summertime for families to borrow out. And then that is to start in May. They actually were picked up this morning, so they're en route here. They've already arrived. Another update was the Canada Healthy Communities Initiative. I received an email saying, thank you for your application. We received an overwhelming response. So they've extended their deadline to May 14th, which is the same day that the next round of funding opens. So we'll find out soon if we were successful in the playground application. In addition to that, I received an email from Craig Kelly at the County of Renfrew, and I just want council to be aware. The PJY ice surface is not big enough for speed skating. They had previously done a walkthrough, and I received a phone call previous to Craig's email, and it was, what size of ice surface do you have at the arena in Barry's Bay? And my response was an NHL sized ice. So unfortunately, they do need the Olympic sized. So they will be, I did mention to Craig if there was something else that we could host, then to let us know. Otherwise, the Winter Games will still be operating at the high school as opposed to at the arena if nothing else pops up. And there could be last minute changes, shifting of venues that could go on. That again is given the decision is made in September if they're moving forward with this event or not. So we'll find out more closer to that date. The next thing, I wanted to send council an idea for community picnic tables. And what I wanted to do with this, and I wanted your go ahead before or your opinions on it as well, before I went ahead and just invited some groups. I'd be looking for community interest, either artisans or schools or anybody who would like to decorate a table. And if we purchase the tables for each individual departmental budget, the overall cost of these would be divided out. And I just wanted the tables to be a location within our community to be central and bright, and colorful, and something to draw people's attention. We do need to replace some picnic tables, so this is twofold. We're going to be replacing some picnic tables with some pretty picnic tables. So I wanted to get council input on that. And then also the health unit sent out the update on sports teams and leagues. And I wanted to put this on the council agenda, but I have sent it out to all of the groups that need to know for soccer, baseball, all of the above, who use our facilities as well as the high school facilities, for their rental and information for this year. So that has come up, and if you'll notice in that documentation, they only go as far as red. Gray's not in it. So there'd be further guidelines to allow this type of play, and we'd have to at least go down to red if my understanding of this document is correct. So, sorry, that's a quick one over, but I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Thank you. I was just wondering, thank you, Stephanie, whether we could go, maybe we'll go back in the report and go through the items and see if there's questions on each item or any comments. So I'll go back to the beginning, Snowdown 2021. I know, I think personally, I'd like to say I saw lots and lots of articles on social media, and I think it was really, really a successful event, and some actually quite wonderful snow sculptures that were created. So that's my comment on it. Anyone else? It was quite visible everywhere. Mayor Love?
Yeah, I thought this was a great activity that could get people engaged in doing something outside, but at the same time staying safe in terms of all the COVID guidelines. So, you know, it's fantastic to see it be a success, and it's something that we could continue potentially. You know, we don't have to be in a pandemic to do this. This was quite a, you know, a fun activity for people. So I think you know, Stephanie, please keep it in mind for regular times as well. Thank you.
I think that's one of the benefits of the pandemic, is we're finding creative ways that, and things to do that perhaps we wouldn't, that can continue in future years. Combermere Hall access update. Any questions, concerns? Okay, if not, Chalk the Walk, MB. Again, I think it's a great idea. And the Canadian Tire Jumpstart Foundation grant. Grant, it's great to get this, and thank you, Stephanie, for putting in the application. Canada Healthy Communities Initiative. Well, hopefully we'll be successful on that. We could really use that one. Mayor Love.
Yeah, just a question for Stephanie. So the first round ends and the second round begins. Are we going to know whether or not we've been successful in the first round before the second round opens? We don't, we're not. Okay. So as soon as we find out, let's say we find out we're successful, fantastic. But if we find out we haven't been, can we flip the application into the second round if it's still open? That's my concern. I want to try again.
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
so, yes.
Great.
Okay, any other? All right, and then the 2022 Winter Games, which is disappointing, but we still hopefully will have kickboxing, and maybe something else can be found for our community too. Councillor Schulis.
Yeah, it's you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm quite surprised that our rink, I know it's not Olympic size, but I don't know if there's one in Canada anywhere, or is there? You know, I know in Calgary, of course, they had the Olympics, they had it in Vancouver, so I don't see any Olympic size ice surface in Ottawa Valley, unless I'm mistaken.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm aware of an ice surface in Ottawa. So they have reached out to the city of Ottawa for other locations within for these events. So they may go that far and reach out somewhere in Ottawa. That's just my guess. That's the only international ice surface that I'm aware of locally.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other comments on that? And then community picnic tables. I think it's a great idea. Any thoughts, Councillor Bablinski?
Yes, I think it's a fantastic idea. I think there are some that need to be replaced, and last year when we had the little event at the celebrated the Canada Day at the new gazebo, people were able to bring in and leave a half a dozen picnic tables, and they're all being used. I think it's a great idea. The only issue that I would have is with the painting of it. And some of the painting might be great, but we'd have to have a lot of supervision and be prepared to maybe have to spend more money. And my concern dealing with painting like this, it could lead to a graffiti situation. And I'm very well aware of where one kid starts something and then somebody else comes along, paints a lamppost, and that's not what we want. We want to have control of this. So I would encourage the tables, but I would not encourage the painting unless there's some specific thing that's going to be approved and supervised. But just to have kids come in and do that would be a no-no.
Sue?
Are they shellacked after they're painted, or is it going to be like a continual, like change the top of the?
No, it would be
Table.
coated with a clear coat.
Oh, it's so after, so you'd get, if there was graffiti there, then it just wouldn't be clear coated.
We get graffiti on all of our tables. It wouldn't be anything new. So it would, my hope was if it's painted with a picture, maybe there would be less graffiti was my hope. And I wouldn't expect us to repaint the table as is. If it came down to us, we would just keep putting on the clear coat every year, or like as we normally would. So I was just thinking it would be a nice, bright option.
Okay, thank you.
Mary Love?
Stephanie, would the tables get a base coat of something beforehand? Because not all nooks and crannies might get painted. So I'm wondering if they were sort of given a base coat of a neutral color as sort of the protecting the wood and creating the palette. Then if we were to limit the paint, the artistic and expressive part of the painting to maybe the top of the table and possibly the top of the seats, that might help to make it very clear that this isn't graffiti, this was done intentionally and it's artwork.
Yeah, that was my plan. That's right.
Yeah, and I just one comment, because I agree with what Councillor Poplinski said about you don't want it to become graffiti. I think it can work really well, but I do think supervision and sort of a plan, like maybe guidelines and things would have to be put in place. I mean, I've seen it work really nicely, City of Ottawa, with the design of the tulips for Tulip Festival and groups taking on one to do their own and, and try to do that sort of thing. I can see this working really well, but I think it does require supervision and some guidance and rules. Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, I confirm what you're saying. And my question is, what are the tables made from? Because it really depends what you're going to do with them. If it's pine, you can paint them and you can shellac them, you can do all that. But if they're cedar tables, forget it. You can't do that. And if it's pressure treated, you also have some issues. So I think it's very important to know what we're having done. Okay, because I've worked with wood all my life and paints and decks and furniture, lawn furniture, and you can't keep paint on cedar. Okay, thanks.
All right, any other comments on the picnic tables? I think it's a good idea, but maybe we need to look at it a little. Let staff look at that and figure out some of the details on it. And then the last item was the sports teams and league updates, and who knows where we're going there, I guess, right now. But we'll have to just watch and see what happens over the next few weeks, I think. It's unfortunate. All right, so if there are no other comments, we'll move on to the next item, which I've just lost. Is the Appreciation Awards, MB Appreciation Awards 2021. And Stephanie, I'll let you speak on that again, please.
Great. So I created a nomination form for a volunteer appreciation award. I wanted to introduce it in an April meeting to tie it to National Volunteer Week. And so the form is attached to your agenda, and there were 5 categories that I came up with. But if there's anything that council sees as they'd like to include an extra category or change a category, by all means, let me know, and we can and edit this as it comes through. But I would just like to introduce this this year for National Volunteer Week. It'll be a little bit later. The winners will be announced, but down the road, I foresee this as being put out every year in February or March, with applications coming in time so that the winners or volunteers could be appreciated during Volunteer Week. And then with the previous comments made for a volunteer celebration barbecue in the summer, that would go on further in the year. So it'll be a February, March introduction to the program from years down the road, and then the contributions in May, and then the barbecue in the summer. Now this year, because it's COVID, I don't know, a barbecue may not be sufficient. So what we were thinking was it would be more likely a certificate for lunch or even a drive-through. I'm not real sure what the details will be then, but we can work that out closer to. So I just wanted councils to be aware of this initiative and move forward with this application. If there's anything else that you see that should be added to this, let me know.
Any questions? Councillor Poplinski?
Yes, thank you. I think it's a great idea. We recognize the volunteers. What I would suggest is that if we're going to be using taxpayers' money, I'd suggest that we have the 3 distinct communities have their own committees can organize a little event in as opposed to having one big one. That would be my suggestion.
Okay, any other comments? My only comment was I do like the categories you've chosen. I think it covers everything very, very well. Particularly like having the youth one and lifetime achievement. I think it's good and covers everything, and could make these awards very special. Mayor Love.
Thank you, Chair. I like the categories. I have no concerns with that. I'm thinking about what Councillor Poplinski just said, and I'm wondering if, rather than separating ourselves into 3 separate parts, if we could just move it around. It doesn't always have to be in Barry's Bay. The celebration is for our community. It is for volunteers across our communities. So I think I'd be much happier if it was done in Combermere one year, done in Barry's Bay the next year, done in Wilno the year after, or I don't care what order. That was just what came to the top of my head. There are places where this could happen in each of those communities quite easily. We have venues. So I think I'd like us to be celebrating as a community, but let's not get our mindset stuck in it'll be in Lakeshore Park and Barry's Bay. That would, I think, address, in my mind, that would address better the inclusiveness of engaging the entire community by moving the actual event around from year to year.
Right. I think that's a good point, and I think we do have to recognize that they're the MV Volunteer Appreciation Award. So it would be nice to do that, and I think moving them to different communities is a great idea and a great way to handle it. It doesn't have to be an elaborate ceremony. It can be, respectful and well done without being elaborate. And I think each community in our township would do a good job of hosting it on a rotating business. So I think it's a great idea. Any other thoughts? All right, so we do have a recommendation on this one. Sue, do you mind reading it, please?
Yes, through the chair, that council accepts this report as information and that council directs staff to promote, advertise for the 2021 Madawaska Valley Volunteer Awards, and that the volunteer celebration barbecue gift certificates for 2021 volunteers be funded from the new initiatives budget and annually budgeted thereafter.
Thank you. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Bromwich, seconded by Mayor Love. Any further discussion? Not. All those in favor? Carried. Our next one is a report honor our veterans, Barry's Bay Legion banner request. And I think it's straightforward. Any comments, Stephanie?
No, we received the letter, so we attached the information to my report. So we wanted council to be aware of their ask. and what was involved in that. And our calendar for banners would actually work out so that there are no banners in the fall. They could go up at the time of the summer banners coming down, and then the Remembrance Day banners going up. And then the banners for the winter would be installed thereafter. It would be one extra banner change for township staff. And I'm not sure if there's any questions, but the example is in your package for what the banners could look like. And then the community partners have included the BIA as well as the Legion, who would be taking the organizing stance on this initiative. And our township staff did inquire as to locations of each banner. So there would have to be a map of sorts provided, so we don't know that somebody's great grandfather has fallen off of a pole and which pole it is that they're on. Where is it from kind of deal for it to be replaced if something were to happen to one of the banners. So that was one of the concerns, but I'm not sure if council has any input on this.
Or anyone have any comments or questions? I think it's a great idea. And if there aren't any, I'm prepared to move this one. And could I get a seconder? Oh, I guess we need it read first. Sorry. Sorry, I'm ahead. Trying to move along.
Through the chair, that council approves the Barry's Bay Legion Honor Our Veterans Banners program, and that council approves the staff time as a donation in kind toward the installation of the banners throughout the township of Madawaska Valley in Barry's Bay, Combermere, and Wilno as required.
As I said, I'll move, and I did have a seconder, Mayor Love. All in favor? And it's carried. All right, and our final item, or the final item on the recreation section, or I guess not quite the final item, but is the Communications, Marketing, and Promotion Working Group Committee. And I know Gwen did prepare this. I don't know whether she will speak on it, or I think this is in response to our decision we made at a council meeting earlier, where we decided we could do a lot of this in-house. And I think this is a good idea to form it's recommending that we form a working group that would consist of staff members, the deputy clerk, recreation, and members of council. And then the recommendations will be brought back to council once this working group has met. So at this point, I don't know whether do we want to appoint members at this time?
I think just to see if
if
there are two council members that are interested in joining as well. And
yeah. First of all, is it something, well, I guess so. Is there anyone interested in being on this committee? I know I would like to be. Councillor Schulis, any other? Councillor Poplinski.
I would like to, I'm definitely interested. Thank you.
Okay, so we have plenty of interest. So perhaps we could read the recommendation. I guess, I mean, if it makes it easier, I can drop out and allow the other two councillors to be the members. And then we could go ahead and read the recommendation.
that a communication, marketing, and promotion working group be established. And that members of that group include the deputy clerk. Sorry, someone's television is on.
And their caregivers.
I need somebody to.
And we will be immediately targeting.
That a communication, marketing, and promotion working group be established, and that members of that group include the deputy clerk, communications coordinator, recreation and community development coordinator, Councillor Poplinski, and Councillor Schulis, starting immediately, and that recommendations be brought forward for council consideration and updates. You're muted, I believe, Councillor Wilmer.
That wasn't my television. I am. I will so move. Seconder, Mayor Love. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, and our final item is the budget and actual report recreation economic development. And I don't know whether anyone has any questions on these. I think Amanda's around and Stephanie's here if there is anything, but any questions at all? All right. If not, that's just for information.
Councillor Wilmer,
Councillor
I
Popl-
think Councillor Poplinski's hand is up.
Councillor Poplinski. Councillor Poplinski, you're muted too.
How are we now?
You're good.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the $1,800 for the, what was the initiative here?
Page.
Which on the economic development?
Yes. Advertising and promotion. What are we advertising?
Okay, sorry, I can speak to that. The regular advertising that we do annually has started, the invoices have started to come in. So I've got an Algonquin Park info guide, a Discovery Ontario guide, the military service recognition book. There was an issue with that check last year, so it's now come through in 2021. I guess we had sent it off to the wrong location. And then a sponsorship package for two different, the Madawaska Valley Artisan Festival, and then the podcast for Ottawa Valley Boss Babes. So that's what that $1,800 is right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, we'll accept that as information. And I don't think we have any other correspondence or information. Is there any unfinished business or anything coming forward? Nope. If not, then I'll turn the meeting back over to Mayor Love. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. All right, so our next section is planning matters and statutory meeting under the Planning Act. 9.1 site visit Opeongo Line, and Sue, you provided this report. Did you want to speak to it?
I did on Tuesday, March 30th, the operations manager, operations supervisor, myself, councillors Bromwich, Poplinski, Schulis, and Wilmer attended to view a proposed severance location at 19536 Opeongo Line, to ask questions and to view the maps to see on ground what was proposed on the map. And there is a staff report that will be discussed in closed at today's meeting.
Okay, thank you. So I gather we will ask any questions we have at that point then in camera. So we're just accepting this as information, I believe. Okay, next under municipal reports, we have building permit statistics for February 2021 and March 2021. My goodness, they've been busy. I noticed Silas has joined us. Silas, did you want to speak to these, the busyness of your department? And you need to unmute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, both gentlemen have been extremely busy, as you can see by the report. I have basically just been monitoring them gradually because I am so busy in the planning department that I've really left it up to them. But they tell me that there is a boom once again this year. So things aren't slowing down any as the report spells out.
Any questions from council for Silas on the building statistics? Okay, I think we're all impressed and really pleased to see the growth, that's for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Councillor Poplinski, sorry.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Love. As we look at this, and I know we have additional people working in that department, but we want to make sure that we're keeping things moving along. And I would hope that it would be brought to our attention if there was an issue where additional help would be needed, even on a short-term basis, you know, because we have to take advantage of this boom and we don't want to put anybody, slow them down. So I'm sure you'll keep the communication lines open and let us know if there's something else that you need in terms of some help. So I'd appreciate that.
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Poplinski. The only thing that I hear from the gentleman is that they haven't been inputting the statistical information on our system, because we used to do that as the permits were issued with our assist, But as you know, we're having growing pains with Fathom. So there is all of these permits that have been issued are still just in paper form. They're not electronic. So we may need someone to upload all that information once we become at that stage where we can do that.
Okay.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. So council, we will keep that in mind. Is it something that can happen automatically once everything is set up and working?
Madam Mayor, no, it has to be manually inputted. So yes, that's 3 months going on to 4 of all these permits that have to be actually processed. And I don't know, maybe the CAO can advise whether City Reporter automatically can transfer that. I'm not 100% sure. Oh, there's Andy. He can give us an explanation of that.
Hi, Andy. We're putting you on the spot.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure. All I see is a blank screen here, so I'm not sure what's happening.
Okay,
Oh,
so
we can see you.
we can see you perfectly fine.
Well, I can't. That's okay though. You don't need. So I'm not sure what's the question. I'm not sure. I just came in.
Okay, so the question I asked was, can the building permit information be uploaded automatically into our new software, or is it always going to be something that's manually having to be done?
Again, without knowing what the new system is going to be like, because we have not received any training on it as of yet. We still do not have in our VATM or our new iCity. We do not have the building permit program set up. We were waiting, I do believe, on City Reporter and iCity to jointly create that software for us. And this way it would have been something that hopefully we were looking to incorporate that information from one to the other without much work. However, we still haven't received anything. I do believe they've been communicating back and forth. And as I heard Silas say, mention something with regards to the 30 or 40 permits, whatever we have now, yes, that's all going to have to be put in by hand, I do believe, because there's nothing in any system right now. It's just done by hand, and we're waiting on the system to be rectified.
Okay, so that's certainly something that I hope if there's anyone who can move that along or apply some pressure, that pressure would be applied, because obviously the longer you go building a stockpile of items that have to be put in manually, it just makes life more difficult if it can happen through a process of the two softwares connecting. But Sue, could you maybe look into that and just find out when the building department can anticipate that there would be some training and that they'd begin to do this? Let's hope it's not during your busiest part of the year. Wait, I don't know what your not busy part of the year is, having seen some of the statistics, but anyways, the sooner we can do that, the better. And we will keep in mind that someone may need some additional assistance may need to be provided to ensure that everything that you've already got completed can be uploaded into the new system through the manual process that it is going to require. So, okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the answer. We will keep on that and make sure that you guys get connected, because I don't think you're going to get any less busy as time goes on. Are there any other questions on the building permits from council? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I think I just lost where I was. I apologize. Okay, that was the permit statistics. Next, we have municipal property. We have a report from Gwen on the various municipal properties that council wanted to look at to see what would be potentially items that we could look at declaring surplus. I note that that there's a significant amount of work we'd have to do with this list to identify what is something we're obviously not getting rid of, i.e. the arena, the wastewater plant, those sorts of things. So rather than taking up a great deal of council's time today to do that process and recognizing how tiny the print was on this, I made it as big as I could on my screen and still couldn't read some of it. So I'm wondering if council would be interested in, again, let's take advantage of the idea of a working group and get a couple of us sitting down with staff and going through this list and taking out the things we're obviously not interested in declaring surplus, and possibly getting it down to a much shorter list, and then coming back to council with a little more information on each of the items on that much shorter list. Would that be I think rather than us trying to pick through this today, it might behoove us to take advantage of setting up another working group, getting that done, and getting that information to come back.
Totally
Councillor
agree.
Councillor Schulist?
Yes, absolutely agree with that. And I'd like to be part of that committee. I know I initiated the parcel land, of Bark Lake, but there's just so many that when I'm looking at the list, but I really don't know where these properties and what's the reason we've got them. But yeah, exactly. There's parks and arenas and all this absolutely not touched. So I really would like to identify every property. What was the purpose of us having that property? What is the use? Has it been used? And then we can decide on should we make it surplus or should we keep it? So I wouldn't mind being part of this. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Wilmer?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say no. Trying to go through it and deal with these at a council meeting like this would be pointless. There's so many properties and we really don't. We know many of them have other uses, which we wouldn't be looking at declaring surplus. But I think it would be a very good idea to appoint a working committee to go through them, look at the properties, come back with a proper list of all the ones that potentially do have surplus value to our township. So certainly support that 100%.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Poplinski?
Yes, I would certainly be willing to be part of that. It's not something that's going to go on for months, but one meeting, I think, meeting in the office with Silas or whoever, we can find out the ones and take them off the list that are part of a park or and we'll find that maybe even if there's a third of that list, which could be eventual property that we'd consider surplus, I think that exercise is really where you have to start. And I think it's great that we started off with something, but we need to refine it. So I'd certainly be willing to help on that.
Okay, recognizing everybody else's commitments, I'm probably the only one who hasn't, also the only one who hasn't volunteered for a working group. So Councillor Poplinski, recognizing that you are now going to be involved in communications and marketing, would you be okay leaving it to maybe Councillor Schulist and myself to do that work? I just want to share the workload here.
No, that's fine. I'll see the list when you're finished with it, and certainly
Absolutely.
You'll have my input.
No, absolutely. It would be just fishing out
the
things that we're obviously going to keep versus.
I think it's very important we do it.
Okay, Councillor Schulist, would you be okay working with me then? I'm looking at, I have a list of, we've been setting up working groups lately and I have a list in front of me. I didn't want to overburden anybody. So would that be okay if the two of us work on that?
I have absolutely no reason why I couldn't work with you. You're a professional.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's do that, because then we're sharing the workload and we've all got a fair amount of work to get going on. So Sue, is that, can we do a recommendation to set up a working group with Councillor Schulist and myself, and I don't know, I guess Gwen would be involved, and I don't know if Silas has time, but he could maybe.
Me as well. Sorry, it's Steph.
Yes, Stephanie, absolutely. We're not going to get rid of any parks. Yes, we could involve Stephanie as well. I'm giving Sue a chance to. I didn't get a chance to speak to her to see if this was something that we could do.
If I may, that council approve a working group to identify the municipal properties throughout the municipality, to include Councillor Schulist, Mayor Love, Deputy Clerk Gwen Dombrowski, Recreation Community Development Coordinator Stephanie Plebin, and planning staff. I'm not
Yes.
sure if Silas would ask that possibly Andy assist, or if Silas will have time to assist, but possibly that would.
Okay, I think planning staff leaves it open and then they can figure that out because we know they're busy. Okay, so
Need a mover and a seconder, please.
I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so that'll help us to, this is our starting point, and that'll help us to get that moved along a little bit better, and get it honed down just enough that council is looking at some opportunities and we're not going to accidentally sell something we need. All right, budget to actual report for planning and building. Did anyone, I better wait, I gotta find it. Did I miss one? I missed one. Okay, I apologize. Municipal renovation request for proposal. Andy. Is Andy still with us? Did we lose Andy? Maybe can we see if Andy can come back? Because I have a feeling we may need
I'll go
Andy for
see if he's back.
questions. Thanks, Stephanie. Okay, here we go.
Andy's coming.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Stephanie. There he is. You thought you were going to escape.
I was hoping.
I apologize. We have our municipal renovation request for proposal, and I noticed it's your report. So I just wondered if you wanted to speak to it, and then I'll take questions to see if any council members have questions.
Certainly, by all means. First of all, when we sent out the RFP, I did send it to 6 contractors. Only 2 contractors responded to say that they were interested if we could do some changes, and basically the changes were the timeframes. So the timeframes were originally established that they wanted to do it in evenings or on nights, so it would be as little disruption to the staff workday. However, most of the all of the contractors identified that they could not do that. So we discussed it here as staff, and we decided that, well, if we have to disrupt the service during the day, we would do that in order to get the work done. That being said, in the turn, only 2 contractors did identify that they would submit a quote. However, as it turned out, only 1 did, and the other apologized because they said it just got too busy for them and they weren't able to provide it. That being said, we only have the 1, and the renovations is phase 1, and that is for the security doors and I think for some interior work upstairs to the front desk staff area. Again, through the quote, it's very minimal. It's just basically because of the security, and as we've already identified during the COVID process, there's many issues that we have here with the building and security of the building as such. So that you'll see with the quote, and I think there's a little bit of painting that was supposed to be done as well, and that I think he's identified that's going to be an extra, but it's not, I don't think it's going to be a major deal. I wouldn't be surprised you should be able to do it for at least less than 2,000 on top of what the quote is.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Does any member of council have questions for him on this renovation work? Okay, Councillor Wilmer.
Just wondering, since we only did receive the 1 quote, was it sort of within the budgeted area or the amount that you'd sort of hoped, or?
If that's for me, Councillor Wilmer,
Yes.
I apologize. I would say yes.
Okay.
I do believe with the work, because of the doors, it was an issue to trying to find even quotes for the doors. And that's why the process has taken as long as it has, because we were waiting on the contractors. So he did finally receive the quote for the doors and the door openers and things that we require.
Okay.
But it is well within our rate, our projected budget, I do believe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Any other questions for Andy on this? I'm not seeing any. Sue, did you want to read the recommendation?
Yes, through the chair, that staff is directed to accept the quote from Tom Schmidt Construction for phase 1 of the municipal office renovations as presented in the amount of $15,640 HST excluded, withdrawn from account 10100799998 capital expenditures as budgeted.
Okay, could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Is there any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you. I'm double checking. I think we're okay now, Andy. Thank you very much for coming back.
You're welcome. My next question was, can I leave now and get back to my normal duties?
Absolutely, because I know you're busy.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to budget to actual report for planning and building department. Are there any questions from council for Amanda? Amanda, are you available? There's Amanda.
I'm here.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions from council, but I do have one myself on page 181 of the package, which is planning and zoning. Oh, I know why. I know why I have a question. I wanted to know if council has an interest in placing the proceeds from shoreline land sales into a fund, a reserve fund for public water access, for wharfs and dock maintenance. We've touched around this a number of times, but I don't think we've ever actually provided staff with a resolution to redirect that. I do recognize it potentially will have some impacts on the budgets we've just approved. But, you know, if we're going to take the money that we get from selling shoreline and have it as a source to assist us to provide public access to our waterways, we have to finally do it. We have to actually have a resolution and make it so that staff can engage that in our next budget process. And so that this year, any monies that we are recouping, the net amounts from the sale of lands, will actually start to build that fund, because we do know we're going to have some major repair work to do on our wharfs. We already know that for next year. Thoughts from council on this? Is this something we want to do? Councillor Poplinski.
I would, thanks, Mayor Love. I would certainly support that initiative. We've talked about it. I think it needs to get done. And we'll always make up the shortfall, but the docks, decks, all of those waterways have to be done. So I would support it and be prepared to make a motion in that regard.
Okay, now, so Amanda, yes?
So this is a good conversation starter, and that's great. I was planning on bringing a reserve fund policy, an updated one, to committee in the summer, so that we can like finalize all of this stuff, and then it'll be in a bylaw, and I can just hand it over to the auditors so that there's a clear direction. So whatever the decision or of the discussion is, I will implement that into a policy in the summertime.
Okay, that's good to know. So that would make it happen. You have a method to make it happen if this is the will of council.
Correct.
So is there any then discussion from council on the idea? Councillor Wilmer?
No, I think it's great. I think it's something we have to do and need to do. So let's do it.
Okay, Silas, I noticed you joined us. Do you have any concerns?
Thank you, Mayor Love. I was just going to ask, since Amanda won't be working on the policy till summer, any sale or dispositions that will occur, because I have a large stack of them that need to be done. Can all of those funds be earmarked for that purpose so that they don't go into just the general fund?
Yes.
So potentially, is it possible to take any that have been done since the beginning of the year and that will be done up until this policy is in place? Could we potentially put that money towards this? Can we reallocate it, Amanda?
Yes, so I wait until the end of the year, and then any monies that need to be directed into reserves at the end of the year is done. So that's fine. So any sales or dispositions of land that occur throughout the year will be directed to those allocated GL account numbers. And then at the end, whatever the decision is at the end of the year, we'll just move that into the reserve.
Okay, so if we're able to do this and retroactively ensure that those monies are headed to that reserve, I think we'd be very comfortable with that. And it just allows Silas to continue processing as he needs to process. And we'll know that we are building a fund towards some of the costs that we know are coming down the line towards us to maintain our public access. So I have Councillor Poplinski who's willing to move a recommendation that we proceed. I'm wondering, Sue or Amanda, could you kind of frame out a recommendation? Maybe Sue?
I'll try this. That council direct the treasurer to redirect the revenues from shoreline road allowance sales to be redirected from general reserves retroactive to January 1, 2021 to fund the maintenance of public access for recreational needs. Does that make sense?
Public water access?
Public water access.
I think that's what we're talking about. I use that very general term because then it could be repairs on a dock, it could be the wharf itself, it could be one of the other accesses we have in our community that may need some work. There's one up by for Paw Lake, for example. So I want to leave it very general so that the council has an opportunity to use that funding to ensure that there's good public access to our waterways. Councillor Wilmer?
And I think when you leave it that way, that even includes beaches and things, because we do have access through our beaches. And I think it's important that, that we keep it general like that. Yes.
Okay. All right. So you've heard the recommendation. Sue, could you read it one more time? And
yes, if I may, I'm just going to change something in it if I can here.
Sure.
Following your conversation.
It's not all the revenue, so it is the proceeds from the land sale, right? Is there a distinction there, Silas, that I should be aware of?
I would think it would just be the net proceeds after the lawyer's fees and everything are paid off. So if Amanda gets $1,000 after everything is paid out, then that would be what would apply to being put into the reserve.
Right.
Now, I do have one question. Maybe I missed something because I was distracted with a phone call here a second ago. It's specifically doing with shoreline access, not just general recreational facilities, or so just, is that correct?
Yeah.
I think that's what we're looking at. Yes. So we're selling off shoreline property to adjacent property owners, and we want that money to go towards assisting to maintain public access to the waterways.
Thank you. I just wanted it to be clear so that there isn't any, well, it should be going here, going there, so that resolution should be specific. I think for, as Councillor Wilmer said, it can be left a little bit open, but beach areas or water access.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think Amanda, when you develop that piece of policy, it'll probably, it'll give staff some time to hone the details of the wording a little better for the piece of policy. And obviously we're not taking the gross revenues, we're looking at what the net is once the costs of the transaction have been covered. We're looking for that net amount.
If I may.
Go ahead.
And you can make suggestions if you'd like to change. The council direct the treasurer to ensure the reserve policy includes that the net proceeds from the sales of shoreline road allowance retroactive January 1, 2021 be redirected from general reserves to a reserve fund to maintain public water access and beach access for recreational needs.
How are we with that? Councillor Poplinski, are you good with that?
I think it's good. You could include wharfs. That could be added, but you know, that's the whole objective, I think. We've
Okay.
got two major ones that need big repairs.
Yes.
And yeah,
I'll
So,
put
and-
wharf in parentheses as well.
I would,
Okay.
that would be
Okay.
really good.
Okay. So maybe wharfs and docks.
Yeah,
Okay.
and docks,
Parentheses.
yeah, wharfs and docks.
Okay. So it gives a sense of some of the key areas where we want to redirect this money to assist with that public access. Okay. So are you good with that, Councillor Poplinski?
I am indeed, and I think
Okay.
it's fairly clear, and any future councils, and of course, they'll have to abide by it or change it, but
Mhm.
at least it's fairly clear, I think, what we
Okay.
want it to go towards.
So I'm going to say moved by Councillor Poplinski, and I think it was Councillor Wilmer. Are you okay with that to second it? Okay. Any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. So fantastic. I've been wanting to figure out how to make that happen. So that's great that we have a path forward to redirect that money to look after those public assets. Were there any other questions around the budget to actuals that we've received today for planning and building? I'm not seeing any. Okay, so I guess we'll move on to correspondence and information. We have the Hastings County Notice of Complete Application and Virtual Public Meeting regarding OPA number 2. They're on number 2? We're on number 31? Just saying. Any comments, questions? Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Love. I am interested in what's happening there because I am a property owner in Hastings as well, but I'm concerned and actually I want to know, we've got some agreements regarding roads and so on where we, with the neighboring municipality. And what I'm wondering, is there anything that we should be aware of or looking at when it comes to, I know there's a Zoom meeting coming up, which I know I'm going to take part of. But from the council's perspective, is there something that could have some implications for us? And you might have a better idea about that, serving in the capacity where you are.
Councillor Poplinski, was that directed at me?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
like you understand, we've got these mutual agreements where we maintain certain roads and they maintain and I'm just wondering, will it have any implications or could have? Any?
Okay, quite honestly, I couldn't answer that because I haven't been in any way part of the process, nor has Renfrew County been part of a process with Hastings County in regards to what they're doing with their official plan amendment. So I'll be frank, I don't know. I guess I would ask that possibly, our operations manager could look into that, and it would be our operations manager and our fire chief actually, because our agreements are roads, maintenance, and then we have a fire agreement. So perhaps they could check into that to see if there's any changes that are occurring that might then need to be reflected in those agreements. Sue, I noticed your hand up.
I was just going to add that to my knowledge, there wasn't, but I was planning on attending the Zoom meeting. Just in case there was anything to bring forward.
Okay,
Thanks.
so should there be something in that Zoom meeting, could you give a heads up to the operations manager or the fire chief? Silas, you've joined us again.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought I'd just put in my comments on it. I don't believe that just from the face of the document that I saw really affects us, but I believe that the County of Renfrew as an abutting county would also have received this notice. So I would just recommend for Hillary and Corey to maybe check with Mr. Cheeseman if based on our agreements, as Councillor Poplinski said, whether that has any impact, so they can just double check maybe before the Zoom meeting occurs.
Okay. All right, maybe if we could ask them to do so, that would be helpful. Because there may be absolutely nothing to do with our border area, and there may be. So let's have them check with Mr. Cheeseman.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then I guess then that is the notice for the public should they wish to attend that Zoom meeting. With that, we don't have any other outstanding matters in planning. We'll move into finance and administration. Municipal reports, we have the Municipal Cultural Diversity Training. And Sue, you provided a report from our training. Did you want to speak to it?
Yes, it was an interesting session. I was glad I attended. Just a brief, we didn't have much notice. We sent it off to, Deputy Clerk sent it to staff as well as council members. And we were able with the short notice to have some of our staff from different departments, as well as yourself, Mayor Love, and Councillor Poplinski and Councillor Schulist, whose schedules were able to make this meeting. And thank you for, on the short notice, agreeing to attend. But it was Municipal Cultural Diversity Training, and it was presented through Algonquin College. And we just got in towards the end of the free sessions that we didn't have to hire or pay to have the training. I do believe they've had a lot of interest, and there probably will be more sessions coming. And we will encourage the rest of our staff and council members who weren't able to participate to also take the training. I did just kind of through the report touch on some of what the discussions were about, including cultural shifts, assigning meaning to cultures, judgments, to be aware of them, unconscious bias. They spoke as to, you know, what it is, therefore exploring the purpose, shaped on your experiences, your history, your cultural background, and then empathy and equality. I did, she did give us permission to attach some of the worksheets and or documents she was referencing, and I did include them to the report for those who were not able to attend.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Sue, is it something that we'll get a, do we get any acknowledgement that we've taken the training, a certificate or anything?
I did actually send her an email on that, but she did acknowledge our attendance and was very glad that we were able to participate, but I didn't get an answer back if we were getting a certificate.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Love. I thought Laura, who gave the thing, was very good. I thought she was very, very helpful. And I've done some of these types of courses in the past with the sales and marketing through the insurance and investment companies, and they're always worthwhile. You understand a lot of other people and why they do things and so on. But one of the things that's come up in the material that I got from the new police boards, that's going to be a prerequisite. So just to give people a bit of a heads up that anyone that hasn't taken or interested, go ahead and do it. But it's all going to be mandated anyway, eventually. So I thought it was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's why I'm asking if there would be some acknowledgement, a certificate or something that we had taken the training, because as you say, it may be something you'll need going forward. Should any of us be a member of that board, to be able to identify that we've had that training. So Sue, if you check into that, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, our next item is staff training update. And again, I'm going to turn it over to Sue if she wanted to speak to this.
This is just for council information. I provided it last year and the year before, just showing some of the cross training that we're doing throughout the office. This year, due to COVID, some of the conferences, webinars we planned on attending were either online or did not happen. And so it's basically just showing some of the 2020 activities, some of the 2021, and not everything is listed. Just tried to prioritize some of the important ones. The finance department, as well as planning, are doing, monthly training with the county, with their boards, and then finance with city manager. I think, for the staff are Zooming or taking some kind of training on a new module on a weekly basis. So it would have been too much to put in there. Just wanted council to be aware of all of the efforts that staff is putting forward in updating their skills, as well as just maintaining and trying to stay relevant throughout COVID, even though it has slowed things down. And these are all budgeted. These are not new requests. And if there was anything that came up as a new request, then we would come to council for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions from council on this? Other than how do we get it printed bigger? Because it's mighty fine print. I don't know.
Yes.
I'm going to leave that one in Gwen's lap to think about if there's some way we can, when we reproduce documents like this, if there's some way to make it a little bigger, it would be helpful. And I know that that may not be something that can be done with the software that we use to create our agendas, but it certainly is challenging for those of us who are not visually well enhanced. I'm on my trifocals, and I made it as big as my screen, and I still struggled to read it. So, and it's important information. So anyways, if there's some way to do that, that would be great. But it does look like there's some good plans going forward. And, you know, in spite of COVID and all the challenges that we've faced in the past year, that staff have worked hard to keep their training up and will be continuing to do so as they transition through 2021 and get a better understanding of our new software and many of the other things that are going on in the world that they need to stay up to speed with. So if there's no questions on the training that is presented, I guess we will move to budget to actual report for finance and administration. Are there any questions on the budget to actuals? On any of those pages 205 to 211? Give everyone a second to have a quick look to see if you had questions. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone with any questions. Everyone's checked they didn't have any, I gather. Okay, so we'll just receive that as information. Again, thank you, Amanda. Correspondence and information resolution from the Corporation of the Township of South Glengarry, dated March 1st, 2021, re COVID-19 vaccinations. Does council want to just receive this as information? I think the resolution itself is a little bit.
It's late.
Well, yes, that definitely, but it's also maybe not a wording I would choose to get behind. I'd want to be a little more diplomatic. But anyway, so we'll just receive this one as information, if that's okay. Resolution from Kingsville dated March 25th, 2021, re Bill C-21, an act to amend certain acts and to make certain consequential amendments, re firearms. Any interest in getting supporting this, or is this again another item that council would prefer to just accept as information? Okay, I think this is again one that we will accept as information at this point in time. Our third item is a resolution from the Corporation of the Municipality of Calvin regarding universal paid sick days. Again, this may not be something that council feels they want to engage in per se. Again, and we will file this one as well then.
Yep.
Please, if someone has a different thought on this, speak up. I'm trying to keep track here. Okay, the fourth item, letter from the City of Sarnia, dated March 4th, 2021, re color-coded capacity limits. My goodness. I'm not sure that there was actually a request to support this per se. Again, is this something we want to just accept as information at this point in time, council? Yeah, I think we're challenged enough dealing with our color-coded COVID stuff. All right, 10.2.5. This is National Volunteer Week proclamation. Okay, so I'm hoping we'll get behind this. We just need to I think there's just a couple of things we may want to just fix on the actual proclamation. I'm going to suggest a couple things to council. So the second whereas, it says, whereas volunteers in the Township of Madawaska Valley mentor our children, feed our hungry, comfort our lonely, beautify our green spaces. I would suggest we add provide social and recreational activities and fundraise for our charitable organizations. I'd like to include the social and recreational activities because a big part of what some of our volunteers do is just that in our community. Would we be good with amending that to include that in there? We're good?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Then if you go down, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth whereas down, it says the collective results of the work done by our cities volunteers. I would say our communities or our municipalities. Communities volunteers. Is that municipalities?
Mhm.
Okay, I whichever. Municipalities would be great. We're not a city. Volunteers is that, and then it needs to have the Township of Madawaska Valley is a more desirable place to live. So it needs our municipality inserted there. Those were the things I noticed. Did anyone else notice anything that they felt was missing from the proclamation? Any concerns with supporting the proclamation?
No.
Are we good? So do I need a mover then, Sue?
Yes,
guess I do.
please. Yes, please.
Okay, sorry, I almost lost track of where I was on the agenda. Could I get a mover then to support the proclamation? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Any discussion with the proclamation as amended? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, if we could do those amendments and then maybe post that to let our volunteers know we do support them. All right, our next item is another proclamation. It is June is Awareness Month for Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder, PTSD. Does council want to support this? Do we feel it's something we want to get behind? Is it something we'd like to file at this point? It's up to you.
Violet.
Okay, are we concurring that we would prefer to just accept this as information? Okay, that's fine. Our next item is an email from the Minister of Infrastructure dated March 23rd, 2021, regarding our asset management planning for municipal infrastructure. So this is just letting us know one of the things is that the phase 2 deadline for asset management planning has been extended by 1 year to July 1st, 2022. We will probably be ready by then with a lot of our infrastructure because we are doing our condition assessments on our buildings this year. So I think this is just information for council. Any comments from council on this? Or maybe from Amanda?
Just to say that this is good news. A lot of the municipalities were hoping for this as well because we've all been really sidelined with COVID. It's been difficult to get things completed and, you know, all the processes have been slowed down. So this is good news for us.
And I think we'll be more than ready because we've been doing the work for quite some time. So we're getting ready for it. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's good to know. So we'll accept this as information. Sorry about that. All right, our next item is a AMO policy update regarding the federal gas tax and updated COVID-19 regulations. So this one has some good news in it. I do believe that the federal gas tax fund has been renamed the Canada Community Building Fund, and the fund was increased from 2.2 billion to 4.5 billion. So we're looking at them nearly doubling the amount under the new name. Any comments from council or Amanda?
So just for your information, so we should be receiving, once Bill 25, I believe it is, passes, we will be receiving an additional $125,000 this year. So I'll have a report for council to discuss the matter, how we deal with the additional funds, but it is good news for us. So that's good.
Amanda, is it similar to the gas tax fund in that it's able to be carried over for a few years in order to group the money towards an expensive project?
Yes.
Okay, so this new name still has the same parameters as the gas tax fund.
Correct.
Okay, that's good to know. That could be very helpful to us going forward.
Mhm.
Any comments from council? Other than we're all pleased to get more money?
Absolutely.
Yes, good news. Okay. Next item is a letter from the Ministry of Finance dated March 29th, 2021 regarding our Ontario Cannabis Legalization Implementation Fund. Almost couldn't speak there. Okay, so this one, where are we? Here we are. So we're going to receive a final payment of at least, I would assume, $5,000 from the Ontario Cannabis Legalization Implementation Fund.
So we received that today, $5,000.
There we go.
Perfect timing.
So is that money then that can go towards our community safety and well-being plan? Sue?
Good.
If I may, I think last year when we did opt in, there was direction where to allocate the cannabis funds that we would be receiving and what it would pay for.
Okay, I just wondered if that was one of the things that had been.
Yes, it was.
Okay, it doesn't mean council has to do that. I recall, I think we put some money towards it from this fund.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from council on that one? Sue, sorry.
Actually, just an afterthought to the conversation that Councillor Poplinski was having about the additional costs for this policing and whatnot. I wonder if we need to see if some of that cost is covered with this as well.
Maybe we could check into that just to see, because that is going to be an impact, certainly. You know, I wasn't saying that we had to spend it on the community safety and well-being plan, just that I recall that we did take some of the money towards that. So this would give another option potentially as well. So I guess if we have any information, we can bring back to council on opportunities to invest that money back into our community, whether it's through policing or the plan that we're still developing, which I think the deadline is sometime this year, fairly soon maybe. That would be good. Okay, let me see now. Next is an email from Jennifer Gruntz, AIMA MPAC, dated March 29th, 2021, regarding the province-wide assessment update continues to be postponed. So obviously the province-wide property assessment update is going to be postponed for another year due to COVID. So the property assessments for the 2022 property tax year are going to continue to be based on 2016 assessment values. Again, this is information for council. Sue?
I did just want to update council, did send an email out to Jennifer to see if possibly for our May council and committee meeting, if she would like to be a delegation. Just to bring us an update. There's some changes that have happened at MPAC as well, you know, the Municipal Connect and whatnot. We have had some questions about the assessment and valuation of trailers and sea containers, and she did agree that she would do a brief delegation at the May Council and Committee meeting.
Okay, that's great. So we'll be able to ask those questions of her and get some answers. All right, anything from council on that? Not seeing anything.
Nope.
Final item is the Ottawa Valley Forest 2021 to 2031 Forest Management Plan. Any comments from council on this? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I think this is for our information as well. Again, I found it very difficult to actually find the plan. I found myself, the link took me places that didn't necessarily inform me better about what the actual proposal going forward is. There seemed to only be information about the previous year. So I don't know whether that was the link was not taking me where I needed to go or what it was. Councillor Bromwich?
I'm here.
Yes, okay. No, I just was going to suggest, I don't know, you're busy doing something. I was going to suggest you mute because it's coming through very loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
It just sounds like you're doing laundry. I know that's not the sound, but
That's exactly what it is.
oh no. Okay, I
Sorry.
literally feel like I'm sitting beside your dryer, so I apologize. If you mute, that would be great, unless you have any comments. All right, you gotta love Zoom meetings, eh? Any comments then? Any further comments on the forest management plan from council? I think we do our best to keep up to this, but it is difficult to find the information. We don't have any unfinished business today, Sue, so I guess this concludes our standing committee portion of our meeting. We'll move into our council portion of the meeting with the confirmation of the minutes. We'll start with the public meeting minutes of March 16th, 2021. The recommendation is that the public meeting minutes for March 16th, 2021 be approved as presented. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Are there any errors or omissions on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Next are the regular council meeting minutes of March 16th, 2021. The recommendation is that the regular council meeting minutes for March 16th, 2021 be approved as presented. Could I get a mover for those? Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Any errors or omissions on these minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. And finally, we have the special council meeting minutes of March 19th, 2021. The recommendation is that the special council meeting minutes for March 19th, 2021 be approved as presented. Could I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Bromwich, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Any errors or omissions on these minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Any business arising from the minutes? You guys a second while I find the bylaws. Okay, any business arising? Not seeing any. All right, then we will move into bylaws. Now, this first bylaw is the one that we would need an amendment to, I believe. It's the one with the sleep cabin, and we were going to amend it to add a line in the bylaw itself about 2 bedrooms, a common living area. Oh, Silas, yes. Do you have a line?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just before lunch, I sent to all of council and all participants at the meeting the amended bylaw. It's there, and I've given Sue a hard copy and Gwen, so they can probably read what I had forwarded. I had Charles and Lindsay work on it. We got it together. However, before the bylaw gets introduced, we need to pass a resolution under section 3417 that no further public meeting is required because we amended the bylaw. So Sue, I'll hand it over to you.
So I need a mover and a seconder for this resolution that pursuant to section 3417 of the Planning Act, council has determined that no further public notice is required in respect to changes that were made to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment after the public meeting of April 6, 2021.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Bromwich. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. And carried unanimously. Just I think maybe make note of that. Everyone's hand was up. Okay, so we can move into the bylaw. Silas, then since this bylaw was on the public agenda, is it okay if I say as amended?
Yes,
in the resolution?
It'll still be the same bylaw number, the 27,
yes.
But just that we amended, or council amended it from the public meeting. And Sue has the 3 bullet points that were added, and she can read those out for you before you request a reading.
Okay, so do I get Sue to do that right now?
Yes.
Okay, yes, please then.
That bylaw number 2006-26 as amended be, and the same is hereby further amended as follows. By adding the following provisions to subsection 7.32 limited service residential exception 38 LSR E38. And this is where some of the additions were made. A sleep cabin shall be an additional permitted use, and the following provisions shall apply to the sleep cabin. Cooking facilities are permitted. Gross floor area maximum 66 square meters. building height maximum 6.5 meters, 2 bedrooms maximum, 1 common kitchen / living room maximum, 1 bathroom maximum, 1 mechanical room maximum.
Okay, so that captures what was discussed at the public meeting this morning. So with that, then I'm going to read the bylaw recommendation. So it's bylaw 2021-27 regarding a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment of part of Lot 10, Concession 5, Geographic Township of Jones, to add a sleep cabin as an additional permitted use in the limited service residential exception 38 LSR-E38 zone. Ian Cameron McKenzie and Lisa Ann McKenzie, MAC 2021-01. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-27, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2006-26 of the Township of Madawaska Valley, as amended, be given first and second reading this 6th day of April 2021, as amended. Moved by Councillor Bromwich, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Is there any discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-27 be given third and final reading this 6th day of April 2021 as amended. Could I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Any final discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. All right, next is bylaw 2021-28 regarding the site-specific zoning bylaw amendment of part of lots 31 and 32, concessions 5 and 6, Geographic Township of Radcliffe, to add a retail store and an eating establishment as an additional permitted use in the rural exception 35 RU-E35 zone. Jackson E. Franchetto and Sarah Blakeney Mallow, FRA 2021-02. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-28, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2006-26 of the Township of Madawaska Valley as amended, be given first and second reading this 6th day of April 2021. Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Is there any discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-28 be given third and final reading this 6th day of April 2021. Moved by Councillor Schulist, seconded by Councillor Bromwich. Any final discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Next, we have bylaw 2021-29 regarding authorizing the entering into and execution of a fire safety grant program in the amount of $5,600 with the Office of the Fire Marshal. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-29, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into and the execution of a fire safety grant transfer payment agreement between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal, and the Corporation of the Township of Madawaska Valley, be given first and second reading this 6th day of April 2021. Moved by Councillor Bromwich, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Any discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-29 be given third and final reading this 6th day of April 2021. Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Any final discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Next is bylaw 2021-30 regarding being a bylaw to permanently close part of a public highway known as Ohio Road and to deem same as surplus to the requirements of the municipality, being part of Lot 2, Concession 6, designated as Part 1 on Reference Plan 49R-19586, and to acquire and dedicate as a public highway that part of Lot 2, Concession 6, designated as Part 1 on Reference Plan 49R-19586 from Brent Conway Rakoski to Kimberly Colleen Rakoski, all in the geographic township of Radcliffe in the township of Madawaska Valley. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-30, being a bylaw to acquire and dedicate land as a public highway and to close and stop a part of a public highway in the geographic township of Radcliffe, be given first and second reading this 6th day of April 2021. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Is there any discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. All right, our next bylaw is bylaw 2021-31, authorizing the entering into an execution of a site plan agreement between Calvin Lucian Joseph Hutter and Caitlin Ann Jill Hutter and the Corporation of the Township of Madawaska Valley. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-31, being a bylaw authorizing the entering into and the execution of a site plan agreement between Calvin Lucian Joseph Hutter and Caitlin Ann Jill Hutter and the Corporation of the Township of Madawaska Valley, be given first and second reading this 6th day of April 2021. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Schulis, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Any discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-31 be given third and final reading this 6th day of April 2021. Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Bromwich. Any final discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. And next is bylaw 2021-32 regarding terms of reference renewal, station keepers MV, use of the railway station. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-32, being a bylaw to establish a terms of reference for the station keepers MV and to establish a memorandum of understanding between the Township of Madawaska Valley and the station keepers MV with respect to the facility use of the Barry's Bay Railway Station, be given first and second reading this 6th day of April 2021. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Poplinski. Any discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-32 be given third and final reading this 6th day of April 2021. Moved by Councillor Schulis, seconded by Councillor Bromwich. Any final discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Next is bylaw 2021-33 regarding water system budget rates for 2021. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-33, being a bylaw to adopt the 2021 water system budget and establish the water system rates effective January 1st, 2021, be given first and second reading this 6th day of April 2021. Moved by Councillor Schulis, seconded by Councillor Bromwich. Any discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-33 be given third and final reading this 6th day of April 2021. Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Any final discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, before I get into the next one, which is the wastewater budget, I just want to draw council's attention on the bylaw to number 10, which says if a private contractor deposits sewage waste so authorized into the municipal wastewater system, a service charge of $11.65 per cubic meter will apply. We at the moment are not authorized to be able to accept it. And so I would like to suggest that we remove this particular item from the bylaw since we don't accept it at our wastewater treatment plant. It's not under our certificate, and our septage receiving station is not up and running. So I think it would be in our best interest to remove this one line. Sue, did you want to speak to this at all? There will be some discussion at the next committee meeting in regards to this and further information provided by Aqua to council about the septage receiving station. But at this point in time, we can't accept it. And there is a decision that would have to be made by council to invest significant money to be able to accept it. So I think we're just better off to take it out so that we're not in a position where anyone will say to us that, but it says you do in your bylaw. Sue, did I cover that okay?
Yes, you did. You covered it well, and I did forward it to Ontario Clean Water, and Ashley Pilgrim will bring back a report outlining when we need to have and what we need to have to be able to accept the septage.
Okay. So for now, we need this definitely to be not in our bylaw. So I'm going to
Right.
say as amended, if council concurs, and we'll just take number 10 out and then the rest will be renumbered. The other point would be if this was something we were going to be doing, that rate's been in place since Hector was a pup, and it's nowhere near what it would actually cost to receive it and process it. So we're just going to remove it for now. All right, so it's bylaw 2021-34 regarding wastewater budget rates for 2021. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-34 being a bylaw to adopt the 2021 wastewater system budget and establish the wastewater system rates effective January 1st, 2021 be given first and second reading this 6th day of April 2021 as amended. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Schulis, seconded by Councillor Bromwich. Any discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. The recommendation is that bylaw 2021-34 be given third and final reading this 6th day of April 2021 as amended. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. Any final discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, that gets us through our bylaws today, gentlemen. We're going to move, Councillor Wilmer.
It's just a question, maybe I missed something, but on bylaw 2021-30, why did we not give it third reading?
Did I miss something?
No, it's not listed. We only have first.
No,
and
it only requires first and second
okay.
at this
That's what-
stage. I see.
Just wanted to make sure.
Silas is on the call if you wanted clarification.
Silas, yes, did you want to clarify?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, that is correct. We only gave it first and second reading because we have declared a portion of Ohio Road as surplus. It has to be published as a notice in the newspaper because we're closing a public traveled road. And the other thing that I observed was that there was a reference in both instances to part one. The part that the Rikuskis are acquiring is part two. So that is a correction that needed to be made there. So once I do the advertising and there is a prescribed time that the notice goes into the newspaper, then the bylaw will be brought back to council for third and final reading. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So that good. We didn't miss something. Thank you, Councillor Wilmer. I thought it's easy to miss something when you've got a list of bylaws. I keep marking my way down, but I could have skipped something. So I appreciate everybody keeping an eagle eye out on that. All right. Thank you, Silas. We will again let you get back to work. All right, we'll move to our in-camera session. The recommendation is that the meeting enter in-camera session to discuss matters pertaining to the security of the property of the municipality or local board, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, Ontario Municipal Act 2001, Chapter 25, Section 239, 2A, B, C, and F. Number one is the regular council meeting in camera minutes of in camera of March 16th, 2021. Number two is this special council meeting minutes in camera of March 19th, 2021. Number three, Wishart Law Firm update re-court file number CV-21-00000002-0000. And number four is Kingdon Holdings update. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Wilmer. All those in favor? And that's carried. We are in